You can't learn how to be successful with women by listening to women. Hi guys, I'm Martin and I've been a dating coach for 17 years, and today we're going to talk about how to be and how to become the kind of guy that women want to be with. Now, you can't learn by listening to women because there's a couple of reasons. The first reason is that women don't really know what they want. And what I mean is they know it when they feel it and when they experience it, but they can't explain what the elements are that go into it. So they just use kind of very generic descriptors. So for example, the standard type of ideas, girls want a rich guy, for example, or they say they want a guy with a good job. It's not necessarily about the amount of money per se. Now, obviously, you can't argue that more money isn't better. Of course, more money is better, but it's more about the fact that they want to live out a certain type of lifestyle, and for different women, that's different type of lifestyle, but they want to live out a certain lifestyle, and a certain amount of money is required. Now, how much money is that? Well, it's not like they sat down and calculated this. They don't know. They didn't write it down like, oh, well, I need this much and I need this much. And they just think, oh, if I have a guy who makes a lot of money, then I don't need to think about it. Even though no matter what, there's always trade-offs. I've got clients who've got, millions and millions of dollars. And even for them, their wives, their girlfriends have to make some trade-offs in terms of what they spend the money on. So it's not about the amount of money. It's about the lifestyle and how they feel about spending money when they're with that person. So if they feel that they're able to do the things that they want to do, then the actual amount doesn't matter. Now, of course, there are women out there who have very expensive taste. And if you're a guy who doesn't have that kind of taste, even if you have the money, because as I have some clients that are like this, millions of dollars, they don't buy their wives, their girlfriends, designer brands, and they don't want girls who are like that because they think it's a stupid use of money. Now, on the other hand, there are plenty of other guys who don't have, 10 plus million, and they do buy their girlfriends this stuff, right? So it's not about the amount of money. So that's an example of how, you can hear a woman say something like, oh, I want a guy who makes a lot of money, and then it's very easy to misinterpret that. I also have clients who make good money, but they work a lot. And their girls are not happy about how much they're working, and they would rather have more time with them and less money. So so that's another mistake that many guys make. They go and get these jobs that require them to work 70, 80 hours a week, and then their girl isn't happy. And you see this as a trope in chick flicks pretty frequently. Where, and there's the very classic LL Cool J video from, where the guy is out working, and, when he's out working, LL Cool J comes around the house on his bicycle. The guy goes to his job in like a Bentley or something, and LL Cool J rolls up on like a BMX bike. and there's plenty of other examples in the movie Moulin Rouge, in Titanic, there's in The Notebook. There's plenty of movies where it's not about money, it's about the experience, right? And I bring up those movies because, women love those movies and they can relate to those movies and they feel what the women are experiencing when they watch those movies, which is why they love them. So they're great examples of how what women say they want and what they actually want, it's not easy for them to explain, so they just fall back on very generic things. So that's the first thing, is that when they try to describe what they want, they don't do a good job of really telling you. And this was really problematic for me when I was learning, because, it seemed logical that I could just ask women what they wanted, As a guy, if a girl says to you, hey, what do I need to do to be sexier? Or what do I need to do so you'd want to date me? Like, it's not that hard. Like, you can easily list out tons of things that she could do. Maybe not tons, it depends on the girl. Maybe you only need 2 or 3. But a few things that if she did them, you would definitely like her more. Whereas when you do that with women, you get a bunch of stuff, and if you do that stuff, nothing changes. And you can go on forums on Reddit and you can read about guys who are having problems with their marriage, and you can see that many of them have put in lots of effort to try and make these changes, and it hasn't helped. And I've seen that also with my clients as well, that a lot of times when they try to do what their wife says that they want, it doesn't really help. Yeah, so women don't really know what they want, and they can't really articulate it, and they're just a lot more, they're not as straightforward. And so, as I was saying, I struggled with this when I was learning too, and so ultimately I couldn't really learn anything from women. I had to learn from guys. And so that's the goal of this channel, is to teach a lot of the things that I learned over the past 30 years or so. And so if you want to work with me, and so you can learn this stuff, and you don't have to go through all of the trial and error that I had to go through, then you can click on the link below, and you can schedule a time to talk to one of the guys on my team, and we can set something up. Another reason is that a lot of times women won't tell you directly. Actually, most of the time. They won't tell you directly because they don't want to hurt your feelings. It's pretty weird. As a guy, we talk straight with each other, so we're used to people giving us information that is useful to us, and how we feel about the information is irrelevant. But women in their relationships are much more concerned with how everybody feels. So they tend not to tell you what you would need to do or what you've done that they didn't like. So I had this so many times where you ask a girl, and once again, this is a trope, what's wrong? And they won't tell you. And they say, oh, nothing's wrong. You say, well, what's wrong? And then they won't tell you. Very typically, especially when you're learning and you're new, and when you're just dating, the girls especially are not even invested in you at all. They're just looking for a guy they like. They happen to meet you. They don't like you. They just move on, and they don't give you any explanation. And I've had some women who told me about their experience with certain guys, and they say, oh, why didn't you just tell him? And, oh, well, I didn't want to make him feel bad. And it's like, okay, well, let me tell you, you not fucking him makes him feel a lot worse than if you told him that his apartment is too messy and he needs to clean his apartment, and if he cleaned his apartment, you would be happy to go over there more. I mean, it's like, I don't know why they would rather just leave you with blue balls than just tell you something simple like your room is a fucking pigsty. But that's how it is. That's a great example of how, because they are concerned about your feelings, they don't express to you what you would need to do. And there are many such cases like this. So that's the second reason why it's very difficult to find out what it is that that women want. And I would say the last thing is that generally the way it works is that women, when they find you, you're not going to be what they want most of the time. And once again, you can look in all of the tropes from chick flicks, and you can see this over and over again, where the woman finds a guy and there's something that's off about him, or that she doesn't like about him, or that isn't good about him, but there's kind of like an underlying core of what she's looking for is there. And you see that the classic Beauty and the Beast is a great example of this, as is the story in The Lion King, where Nala goes off and finds Simba and finds Simba hanging out with the boys, Hakuna Matata and all of that, and then she's like, oh well, I see more in you, and then he rises to the challenge. So generally, especially when you're a young guy, girls aren't expecting you to have arrived anywhere yet. But what they are looking for is for you to be willing to step up. Now, once again, this isn't something that they tell you, right? So in the case of Nala, she tells him that she's kind of disappointed in him and all this stuff, but of course she's known him for a long time. In real life, it doesn't work like that. In real life, you show up and you meet a girl and she just finds you as you are, and then she's just thinking, not really good enough. And we actually have a friend who had this exact situation. He had a really wonderful girl, but he just wasn't really willing to step up in the way that she wanted to be able to continue to have a relationship with her. You know, she felt that sort of she'd gotten everything that was there, and that it wasn't really enough for her in the long run. And so they're wanting to see you stretch yourself, to see you move forward, have some direction. And this can be a little bit confusing because on one hand, you're supposed to have this direction and be, you know, ambitious in terms of pursuing something. And, you know, the something can vary widely. It doesn't have to be one of these conventional things. It could be any kind of project. However, if the project is something that isn't conventional, and I mean doesn't lend to conventional success, then because if it lends itself to conventional success, then her unhappiness with the amount of time you're spending on that and the amount of attention she has to give up because you're pursuing that, her friends and family and people around her, they will encourage her to stay with you if you're pursuing things in a conventional way. You know, so if you have like a really tough job, but it's, you know, like let's say you're doing like a startup, you're starting your own business or something like that, then she would feel bad for leaving you. And especially if it's going decently well, her friends will encourage her to stay with you because it's a very conventional type of success. But on the other hand, like if you're doing some, you know, hobbyist project and that's like a real focus of your time, that doesn't have any clear pathway or anywhere where other people would be supportive of or would think that was good, then you're going to have to divide your time between that and giving her the attention, the amount of time and attention that she needs to actually make her feel happy. So if you leave that part out, then she's going to be able to complain to her friends and family. And I'm not saying she's going to be complaining for the purpose of trying to get rid of you, but it's just, you know, people complain. So she's going to complain and her friends are going to say, oh, well, if you're unhappy, you should leave it, right? Whereas if you had, you know, a job at Goldman Sachs, they're not going to say, oh, well, if you're unhappy, you should leave him. They're going to say, well, you know, but he's going to make more money in the future and they'll have more time and, you know, you should stay with it, you know. So that's the thing is that, so this is another way where the advice you can get can be very confusing from when you get it from women because they don't make this distinction. A lot of what affects how she feels about you and how she thinks about you is what other people feel and think about you. And so if you don't cultivate or don't fit into the right kind of image, then she's going to feel like she should leave you, even if she's relatively happy. Now, there's a lot of other there's a lot of other things that guys oftentimes, you know, especially when you've been with a woman for a while, you tend to think that because you've been with her for a while, you don't really need to do as much for her. So as I'm recording this, Valentine's Day is coming up. And, you know, when you're with a person for a long time, it's hard to remember that this is a special day. It's just another day, right? It's another Friday. And for you as a guy, I mean, obviously you don't care about Valentine's Day. What do you get? Well, maybe for some guys it's a big day because maybe it's one of the few days when they think they're very likely to get action. But for guys who are running their relationships properly, if you're running your relationships properly, Valentine's Day is just a day when you have to do a bunch of shit that you don't normally have to do to get the same shit you always get. And the girl, once again, she could be very happy with the experience that she has with you and with the relationship. But what she's not going to be happy about is she's not going to be happy about her friends being able to talk about what they got from their guys on Valentine's Day or what their guy did for them on Valentine's Day. And she's not going to be happy about what she sees on Instagram that other guys did for their girlfriend and then you did nothing. Now, of course, she's not comparing what they get the rest of the week. You know, you could have a girl, her boyfriend beats her up through, 5 days out of the month, but on Valentine's Day he buys her some expensive jewelry, he gets her some roses, he takes her out to, a nice restaurant, or he takes her on a Valentine's Day trip or whatever, and she's gonna post about all that stuff, and your girl, who obviously never gets beat up, is gonna see this. She doesn't know that this girl gets beat up, And she's just going, wow, look at all the stuff she gets. Wow, he must really care about her and think she's wonderful. And, and now she feels like she's being mistreated. And even if she doesn't feel like she's being mistreated, her friends might say to her, hey, what did your guy do for you? And now she feels bad. Not because she feels bad, but because she looks worse off than her friends. It's like if all of your buddies get a promotion and you don't. Of course you're going to feel bad, even if you're happy with the amount of money you make. Now you're not going to be so happy about it anymore. So this is one of the issues with guys, is that, they tend to forget a lot of these little things that can be very important to her because of the people around her. And so when we look at what a woman wants, we tend to think about what she wants in the relationship with us directly. But for her, part of what she wants, or a big part of what she wants, is she wants the relationship to look good to other people. And that is much more important, whereas obviously guys, we don't care about that stuff as much. I mean, if you have all these couples pictures and you haven't gotten a blowjob in 6 months, you're not going to be very fucking happy. You probably don't even care about the couples pictures. You probably want to break them and rip them up and be like, this is fucking bullshit. So that's a big difference, and that's one of the other ways in which men misunderstand, what women want. Now, that we've sort of talked about a lot of the problems that you have in terms of understanding what women want and trying to give it to them, let's talk about more detail about what it is, specifically. We talked about, time and attention. That's really important for women. They want to be able to spend time with you where you're focused on them, or where you're doing something together and experiencing something together, even if it's something that there's no reason to suspect that you would like it. I had a very funny case like this. I was dating a girl and she wanted to see this movie. It's her favorite movie. She wanted to show it to me, and it's The Skin I Live In, which is one of the most disturbing movies that a straight man could possibly watch. And it was definitely disturbing for me, and especially because I'm not into artistic movies. But for her, this was great that she wanted to share this movie with me with no thought at all as to whether it would be something that I would actually like. And we have another friend who had this experience where a girl took him to see The Intern. She's like, this is great. And he was like, whoa, what is this awful movie? And, you see this every time some major chick flick comes out. Girls want to drag their boyfriends to these movies, and they think this is a great date. It's like, But for her, going with her and being with her during this experience is important for her, whether you like it or not. And those are just, an easy example. It doesn't have to be movies, It could be sometimes she wants to invite you out. This is a great one. She might want to invite you out to spend time with her and her girlfriends. Why? Well, she wants her girlfriends to see how great you are and to be jealous of her and how wonderful her relationship is and all this stuff. So, it's not going to be fun for you, of course, to just be dragged out and spend a bunch of time with a bunch of chicks that you don't want to have sex with, but anyway, you will go and do this, and your job is to look like the perfect guy, make it look like you really care about her and that you're super attentive to her and that you take care of all her needs so that, all of her friends can go, oh wow, he's such a great guy, oh I'm so happy for you. That's what an example of how she would want you to spend some time with her every now and then. Now, I think another key aspect is that, women want to feel that they can rely on you. There's been there was in Japan many, I can't remember exactly how many years ago, it's probably about 10 now, there was this big earthquake in Tokyo during the Fukushima tsunami thing, and there was a bunch of breakups after that happened because many girls realized, oh, you know what, if shit hit the fan, I wouldn't feel like I could rely on my guy. And so being a person who she feels she can lean on or who can take care of things and get her out of a bad situation if she was in one is another key aspect of being a guy that she wants to be with. And so a lot of this stuff that you see in traditional caricatures of movies, now in this regard, you know, a lot of times guys, what we think about what a guy should be like and what a woman thinks line up really well. You know, this is the James Bond persona, is the guy who can take care of and handle any situation. Now, you know, this is a caricature, of course. So, you know, it's a representation of what we would like to be, or what women would like a guy to be like. But the key element is that he can walk into a difficult situation and he can manage it and he can handle it and come out, you know, on top. And so women need to feel that you can do that. Now, how do you become a person who can do that? Well, you have to go out and have experiences. You have to go and do things where things don't go well, and you have to adapt to them and overcome them. And having that experience of doing that, you know, once or twice or a few times in your life, which makes you a resilient person, is what women are looking for. You know, they don't want a fragile guy. And so this is where there's this this ongoing debate about men showing emotion, right? And there's this thing about how, oh, men don't show emotions, they really should, they need to be more in touch with their emotions, blah, 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 blah. First of all, yes, you need to be able to show emotions, for sure. That doesn't mean that you need to be showing emotions in the present. It means that you need to show that you have emotions and that you've experienced emotional things at times in your life. You know, when I first moved to Japan, I met a guy who had this girlfriend, and he got fired from his job, and so he was telling her, oh, you know, I got fired from my job, and he was really, you know, upset and distraught about this, and his girlfriend said, oh, I don't like it when you're like this. That's the reality. And of course they don't like that, because what they see when that happens is they see someone who can't handle their own life. When they see that guy can't handle his own life, they think, how am I supposed to rely on him when he can't even handle his own life? So when it comes to expressing emotions, it's generally better, or let me say safer, from a dating perspective, a dating relationship perspective, to express the emotions about experiences in your past. You know, you tell stories about your past and about things you've been through in the past. And in those cases, it's okay to express emotion because you're past it already. So the fact that you're past it already and that you're thriving shows that that emotional experience in the past didn't break you down. However, when you are going through something in the moment, I think it is perfectly okay to express verbally how you're struggling and how it's difficult. But it is not very good to express it physically. And I mean being downcast, crying, being whatever it might be, curling up in a ball, you know, on the bed, whatever. That isn't very good. Yeah, it just isn't very good. Now, I'm not saying that women will leave you because of that. Depending on the kind of bond that you have built with her over time, that can be okay. She can, you know, have enough trust and faith in you that it won't erode the overall feeling she has for you in the relationship. And there's plenty of, you know, that's definitely true. What I am saying, though, is that you need to be very careful about that, because it can be problematic and it can create negatives in your relationship. That's really what that comes down to in terms of being a resilient person and showing, and the balance that you have to find as a guy between being in touch with your emotions and being a guy that she can count on and rely on to take care of her, to take care of business, to take care of, you know, any troubles or whatever. So she wants a guy that she can lean on.